hope you are having a fabulous day. My name is Reggie and today I'm going to be sharing with you a really cool experience I just had. So yesterday I went to a Rae Carson signing, which is so very cool because I think most of you guys know Rae Carson is one of, if not my all-time favorite author. Rae Carson is the author of the Girl and Fire of Thorns trilogy, which consists of Book 1, The Girl, Fire, and Thorns, Book 2, The Crown of Embers, and Book 3, The Bitter Kingdom. She's also currently penning her second trilogy, and the second book was just released, which is what she was touring for. This trilogy is called the Gold Seer trilogy, and the first book in that series is Walk on Earth a Stranger, and the second one, which just came out, is Like a River Glorious. To give a little background, Rae Carson did live in the city I live in for like 8 years or something, so she comes back here when she can, which is really cool. She only has like 4 official public tour stops on her tour, and the fact that this was one of them was really cool. This was at a very small, cute, independent bookstore. Basically, no advertising for this event. The only way I found out about it is because I knew she was going to be touring, most likely, and I knew about the time she announced her last tour, so I was like Googling and looking at her website like on a daily basis to see if anything was announced. One day I randomly decided to Google Like a River Glorious book signing or something like that instead of like Rae Carson tour, and that brought up a Facebook page from Epic Reads that showed she was coming to a couple different stops. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's coming here. I've got to go. And so me and my best friend, who introduced me to The Girl, Fire, and Thorns, we went. We were excited. It was so fun. We went together. We arrived like 30 minutes early to this book signing, and we should have known that this was not going to be a hugely attended event since we found out about it by strategically Googling things and not by word of mouth or advertisement or anything like that. I feel like everyone that was there either knew Rae Carson personally or they were locals of the bookstore and saw the sign. In total, there were probably like 15, maybe 20 people there. It was very intimate, but it was so great because it was very casual. Everyone was talking to each other. Since my friend and I got there like 30 minutes early and no one was there besides Rae Carson and the booksellers, we were able to see her just kind of sitting in the break room. We weren't trying to be creepy or anything. I just saw her on my way to the bathroom. She came out and she gave a really great talk. She talked about both of her series, kind of like how she wrote them, when she wrote them, things like that, and then she got into a Q&A, and it was really great just to hear her talk. She had a really great discussion about jumping from a fantasy series to a historical fiction series and how there are actually a lot of restraints on writing a historical fiction series because you kind of are restrained by actual historical events, whereas in a fantasy series you can do whatever you want, though that is often hard because you have to build it. But she talked about the differences between those. She talked a lot about diversity and why she wrote the books she did, which was my favorite part of the entire talk. Girl of Fire and Thorns, Rae Carson's first trilogy, is about a girl who is married off at a very young age. She is overweight, she is self-conscious. She's also struggling with her religious identity and being a very intelligent person. She is very smart. She is also very religious, and that is this weird juggling act for her, and she's trying to figure out what it means. And she's also, on the first page, being married off to a king that she doesn't really know. And the race of most people in this book are Hispanic or Latino inspired, which is great. Rae Carson talked about how she was that person who was struggling to juggle intelligence and academics and religion and figure out how they play into each other, and she didn't see that in literature she was reading. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume was the only book she ever remembered even reading as a kid that had religion mentioned in it. So that is where the inspiration for this book came from. She wanted to see herself in a book, and she wanted to write a book for the kid who was struggling like she was when she was a kid. I believe she said both of her siblings married people of Hispanic origin, and thus her nieces and nephews had this very different culture, and she was learning about it by being around them, and she wanted that to be in a story as well, and she wanted those nieces and nephews to grow up being able to see heroes in the books they could be reading. Just to hear her talk about that was absolutely amazing. It just kind of made me emotional because that's what we want and that's what we're talking about currently. There's big conversation about diversity, and to see an author so clearly understanding why we want it is so great. I know there are so many authors out there who understand it, but it's just really nice to hear them talk about it. Rae then moved on to talk a lot about her new book in the series and how it deals with a lot of the horrific things that are happening during this time. This series is about a girl who can sense gold during the gold rush, and she is going west during the first book, and then she is in California during the second book, and she sees a lot of the atrocious behaviors that are happening to the Native Americans during this time. And Rae Carson talked about her research process, which was something I was really interested in, and how she had to kind of dig a lot deeper and question everything she researched and saw, because just because that's what was reported doesn't mean that's all that happened or that's what's happened, because as you know, the narrative was not written by the Native Americans, and thus, how much can we trust it? It's like Hamilton, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. The stories that are being told aren't necessarily all of the story. The narrative can easily be manipulated, and it has been. So Rae Carson had to question everything, and she talked about the research process, and that was really, really cool. She also talked about how tough it is going to be for us to read this book, because she made it very clear she just didn't hold back, and that's something Rae Carson does and something I love about her. It's one of her best traits, is that she is bold and she is brave and she is not going to brush off hard topics, and I love that about her. And so I'm really excited to finish this book. I am about 40-50% the way through it. I'm trying to savor it so badly, but I'm flying through it anyways. It's just, I love her so much. The greatest thing is I was able to get every book signed and personalized, which isn't always something that can happen, but especially since there were so few people there, I had no qualms about pulling out my 5 books and being like, sign these. And she was super sweet. When I got up to the table, I talked to her about a lot of things, actually. I had a chance to talk to her about a lot of things. And the first thing I asked her was where she grew up, because she mentioned that she lived in Central California for a time, and that's where I grew up. Not where I live now, but that's where I grew up. So I asked her, like, where did you live? And she actually lived almost in my city. I grew up in a very, very, very small town, but the bigger, it's still kind of a small town, but the bigger town next to my small town was where she lived. That was insane. So we talked about that a little bit, and then she's like, well, why did you end up here? How did you move here? And I told her, because my fiance is getting his PhD. She told me, oh, that's cute. I moved for love too. It was just an incredible experience. It was the easiest time I've ever had talking to an author. Authors are never really difficult to talk to. They're so glad that you're there when you're at a signing. But I always have planned like what I was gonna say, and I was so nervous and I had no idea what I was gonna say to Rae Carson. And then it just like, she talked about Central California and her talk, and I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna ask her where she grew up and we'll see what happens. And it just was such an easy conversation. It was so wonderful to talk to her and meet her. And I'm just so happy I had this experience. I hope that one day you get to meet your favorite author, whoever that is, because it is truly a wonderful experience. But if you haven't read any of Rae Carson's books, I highly recommend them. I do have a trilogy review of the Fire and Thorns trilogy. I'll link it up in the eye as well as in the description bar below so you can check it out. I also have a spoiler-free review of Walk on Earth a Stranger, which is my favorite video I've ever posted on this channel, and Rae Carson did like it and respond to my video, which is really cool. But anyways, good stuff. Check this out if you're interested. And then I'm still reading Like a River Glorious, but I do plan on doing a review of it because already I have thoughts and things I would like to say, and I would like to sell it to you because it's great. These covers are also super gorgeous. I'm just super in love with them. They're fabulous. I can't wait to see what the third one looks like. But honestly, that is all I have to say today. This was the first signing I went to with a friend who was actually there to like meet the author too, so that was fun. I just had a great time and I wanted to share it with you. People usually tell me that they enjoy me talking about author events that I go to in videos, so if you're sick of this, if you don't like this, let me know and I'll stop making these videos. But they seem to be liked, so I will do them because it's really fun for me to look back on the events and hear what I had to say about them. It's just really nice. So I like to do them, but I want to make sure you guys like them too. So if you do enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up. You should also comment down below and let me know if you've read any of Rae Carson's books, what your favorite is. I'd say my favorite is Crown of Embers, I think. You should also subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you in my next video. Bye!